The ancient council's decree, the crystalline spires of Sanctuary Station, stretched across 3 star systems, their translucent walls pulsing with the life force of beings older than most civilizations. At the heart of this ancient structure, the Galactic Preservation Council convened for the first time in over 2 millennia. The chamber itself defied physics, existing in multiple dimensions simultaneously to accommodate representatives from across the known galaxy. Ambassador Elena Vasquez walked through corridors that shifted and adapted to her human physiology, providing the perfect atmospheric mixture and gravitational field. She had been chosen to represent humanity not because of political connections or military prowess, but because she possessed something the other species found unsettling: an absolute refusal to be intimidated. The selection committee on Earth hadn't realized this quality would soon prove more valuable than any diplomatic training. Around her, the greatest powers in the galaxy prepared for what they assumed would be a routine session. The Zephyrian Dominion had sent their most decorated war philosophers, beings who had conquered 17 star systems through pure intellectual superiority. Their crystalline forms reflected light in patterns that could hypnotize lesser species into submission. The Nexus Collective arrived as a single entity distributed across thousands of biomechanical drones, their hive mind capable of processing tactical information faster than most species could think. The Sovereign Empire brought their reality manipulators, creatures who could alter the fundamental laws of physics within their sphere of influence. But it was the Watchers who commanded absolute attention. These ancient beings had existed since before the first stars cooled, their consciousness transcending physical form centuries ago. They appeared as shifting columns of energy that somehow conveyed wisdom, sadness, and an otherworldly knowledge that made even the most arrogant species feel like children. The eldest among them, known only as the Prime Observer, had witnessed the birth and death of entire galaxies. When the Watchers spoke, reality itself seemed to pause and listen. Elena took her place in the human observation section, a modest area that seemed almost insulting compared to the grand platforms assigned to the major powers. Her security detail consisted of just 4 people, while the Zephyrian delegation alone numbered in the hundreds. The message was clear. Humanity was present as a courtesy, not as an equal participant in galactic affairs. The session began with the Prime Observer's voice resonating through dimensions that humans could barely perceive. Its words bypassed translation devices and spoke directly to the consciousness of every being present. We gather to discuss the emergence of a species that threatens the fundamental stability of our galaxy. A species that has developed on what our classification systems designate as an impossibility world. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. Impossibility worlds were theoretical constructs, planets so hostile to life that they existed only in academic models. The fact that one had been discovered sent waves of scientific excitement through the gathered civilizations. Supreme Commander Thrix of the Zephyrian Dominion rose from his crystal throne. His form blazed with controlled energy as he processed this information. Honored Watchers, surely you speak in metaphor. Our surveys indicate the species in question inhabits a standard terrestrial world within acceptable parameters for carbon-based life. The Prime Observer's response carried the weight of eons. Your surveys measure surface conditions and atmospheric composition. They do not account for the adaptive pressures that shape this species over millions of years. The world they call Earth exists in a state of constant catastrophe. Geological activity that would destroy most civilizations occurs regularly. Weather systems capable of leveling continents are routine seasonal events. The biological ecosystem is designed around the principle of competitive violence. Director Calix of the Nexus Collective processed this data through 10,000 computational nodes simultaneously. Environmental challenges produce resilient populations, but resilience does not equate to galactic threat level. Our analysis indicates the human species possesses fewer than 300 space-capable vessels and no weapons. Technology above primitive kinetic projectiles. Elena found herself standing before she realized it. The audacity of speaking in this assembly without invitation would have horrified her diplomatic training officers. But something in the Watcher's words resonated with memories of human history that textbooks often glossed over. With respect to the assembly, I believe you may be misunderstanding the nature of human development. The attention of beings capable of manipulating matter at the quantum level focused on her with an intensity that would have reduced most species to paralyzed terror. Elena felt her heartbeat accelerate, but her voice remained steady. You measure our weapons and count our ships, but you're not looking at what makes humans different. We don't just adapt to hostile environments. We thrive in them. We turn disasters into opportunities and enemies into extinct species. War Paramount Keth of the Sovereign Empire activated reality distortion fields that made space around him ripple like water. His species had conquered dimension-spanning empires through their ability to rewrite the laws of physics during combat. The human speaks boldly for a species that has never faced galactic-level warfare. Your entire military could be eliminated by a single one of our lesser patrol fleets. The Prime Observer's energy form pulsed with something that might have been amusement or sadness. The Sovereign Empire believes in the supremacy of advanced technology and reality manipulation. The Nexus Collective trusts in computational superiority and hive mind coordination. The Zephyrian Dominion places faith in intellectual dominance and psychic warfare. All of you are making the same fundamental error. The chamber fell silent as beings who had ruled the galaxy for millennia waited to learn what they had overlooked. You assume that because humans appear primitive by your standards, they will respond to threats as primitive species do. You expect them to surrender when overwhelmed, to negotiate when outgunned, to submit when conquered. This assumption will prove catastrophically incorrect. Director Calix's drone swarm reconfigured into a more aggressive formation. Explain the basis for this assessment, Ancient Ones. Our predictive models show a 97.3% probability of total human capitulation within 72 hours of coordinated assault. The Prime Observer's form expanded, filling the chamber with an energy that made reality itself feel fragile. We have observed this species since they first learned to make fire. We watched them face ice ages that should have driven them to extinction. We saw them survive volcanic eruptions that blocked out their sun for years. We witnessed them endure plagues that killed 2/3 of their population. Images began forming in the air around the Watcher, holographic representations of human history that no Earth archive contained. Cities buried under ash and ice, forests burned to wasteland, oceans boiled by cosmic impacts. Through it all, humans not just surviving, but growing stronger. Each catastrophe that should have ended them instead taught them new ways to fight. They do not possess your advanced technology because they do not need it. They learn to kill with stones and sticks, then metal and fire, then chemistry and mathematics. Every tool they create has the potential to become a weapon. Every defensive system they build can be turned to offensive purposes. Supreme Commander Thrix's crystal, form flared with dismissive energy. Resourcefulness does not overcome 1,000-to-1 technological advantage. Our psychic warfare capabilities alone could reduce their entire species to mindless servants. Could they? The Prime Observer posed the question with infinite patience. Your psychic warfare depends on exploiting fear responses common to all known species. Humans do not respond to overwhelming odds with fear-based paralysis. They respond with what their own language calls spite. Helena felt a chill of recognition. She thought about human history's greatest moments, the battles where victory should have been impossible, but humans had found a way anyway. the Alamo, where a handful of defenders held off an army. Thermopylae, where 300 warriors faced 100,000. The Warsaw Ghetto, where the oppressed turned on their oppressors with nothing but rage and determination. War Paramount Keth's reality distortions grew more aggressive. We have the ability to alter the fundamental laws of physics around their homeworld. Gravity, electromagnetism, nuclear forces all can be modified to make human life impossible. And they will find a way to use those modifications against you. The Prime Observer replied with certainty that transcended prediction and approached prophecy. This is what makes them dangerous. They do not simply adapt to hostile environments. They weaponize hostile environments. They turn every disadvantage into a strategic advantage. The chamber erupted as the major powers began debating among themselves. The Zephyrians calculated psychic warfare scenarios. The Nexus Collective ran millions of invasion simulations through their hive mind. The Sovereign Empire tested reality. Manipulation techniques that could sterilize entire star systems. None of them seemed to grasp what the Watchers were trying to explain. Elena watched the greatest military minds in the galaxy, planning humanity's destruction with the casual confidence of beings who had never encountered true desperation. They saw humans as just another primitive species to be conquered or contained. They had no understanding of what happened when humans decided that survival required the complete destruction of their enemies. The Prime Observer approached Elena's section as the session devolved into strategic planning. Its energy form compressed into something more comprehensible to human perception, though looking directly at it still felt like staring into the heart of creation itself. Your species stands at a crossroads, it communicated directly into her mind. The path you choose in the coming conflict will determine not just your survival, but the future of galactic civilization itself. We Watchers have seen the rise and fall of countless empires. We have witnessed the birth of gods and the death of universes. But we have never seen anything like what humans become when they believe they have nothing left to lose. Elena felt a data crystal materializing in her hand, its surface warm with compressed information. What's on this? Evidence of what humans are capable of when pushed beyond their limits. Your leaders will need to understand that the galaxy sees you not as potential allies, but as an existential threat that must be eliminated. The Terran Extermination Coalition is already forming. Within 6 months, 3 of the galaxy's greatest military powers will launch coordinated strikes against every human colony, every research station, every ship in space. The weight of this revelation should have terrified her, but Elena found herself feeling something else entirely, a cold, calculating anger that surprised her with its intensity. They're planning genocide. They are planning what they believe will be a simple extermination of a primitive species. They do not understand that attacking humans does not weaken them. It teaches them how to fight. Every assault makes them stronger. Every defeat makes them smarter. Every loss makes them more dangerous. As the session concluded and delegations began filing out, Elena remained seated, staring at the data crystal in her palm. Around her, the representatives of galactic civilization discussed humanity's fate with the detached interest of scientists planning to eliminate a laboratory specimen. They had made their decision based on fear disguised as pragmatism, and that decision would change everything. The Prime Observer's final words echoed in her mind as she prepared to return to Earth with news that would transform human civilization. They call us Watchers because we observe. We do not interfere. But what comes next will require no interference. Humanity will teach the galaxy what we have always known, that the most dangerous predator is not the strongest or the fastest or the most intelligent. It is the one with nothing left to lose and the creativity to turn any situation into an opportunity for victory. Elena stood and walked toward the exit, her mind already racing with the implications of what she had learned. Behind her, the Greatest powers in the galaxy continued planning what they believed would be a quick, decisive campaign against a primitive species. None of them understood that they had just declared war on evolution's answer to an impossible world. The war for humanity's survival was about to begin, and the galaxy was about to learn why the Watchers had tried to warn them when giants. Full 6 months had passed since the Galactic Preservation Council's fateful session and the Terran extermination. Coalition had assembled the most powerful military force in recorded galactic history. 3 massive fleets moved through hyperspace toward human-occupied systems, their commanders confident that the campaign would be concluded within hours of the first engagement. Admiral Marcus Chun stood in the command center of Luna Station, studying tactical displays that showed the approaching alien armadas. The crystalline data from the Watchers had revealed the full scope of the threat. 1,200 Zephyrian war philosophers, capable of mental domination on a planetary scale. 10,000 Nexus Collective biomechanical drones operating as a single superintelligent entity, and 50 Sovereign Empire reality manipulators who could rewrite the laws of physics within their operational range. Against this force, humanity could field approximately 300 ships, most of them converted. Civilian vessels with improvised weapon systems. By any rational military analysis, the upcoming battle would be a massacre. The aliens expected total human surrender within the first day of combat. They were about to discover that humans had never been particularly rational about military analysis. Dr. Sarah Kim rushed into the command center carrying the latest reports from the research divisions. The past 6 months had been a frenzied period of technological development, unlike anything in human history. Admiral, the quantum disruption fields are online across all colonies. The neural feedback networks are active on every ship, and the reality anchor systems are ready for deployment. Chun nodded grimly. The Watcher's data crystal had contained more than just intelligence about the approaching fleets. It had provided detailed analyses of each alien species' combat methodologies, their psychological profiles, and most importantly, their weaknesses. Humans had spent 6 months doing what they did best, figuring out how to kill things that were trying to kill them. The first strikes came simultaneously across 17 different star systems. The Zephyrian Dominion materialized their crystal warships in perfect geometric formations above New Tokyo Colony. Their psychic warfare specialists immediately began broadcasting mental domination frequencies designed to reduce the human population to docile servants. The technique had proven effective against every species they had ever encountered. The colony's response was not what they expected. Commander Rachel Torres activated the neural feedback network from her bunker, deep beneath New Tokyo's primary city. Instead of human minds being overwhelmed by alien psychic intrusion, the Zephyrians found themselves connected to a defensive grid that had been specifically designed to amplify human mental resistance. The feedback effect was immediate and catastrophic. Minds that had dominated lesser species for centuries suddenly experienced the focused rage and determination of humans who knew they were fighting for their species' survival. Supreme Commander Thrix felt his consciousness invaded by something he had never encountered before, the collective memory of human warfare. Images flooded through his crystal matrix. Humans fighting with stones against bronze, bronze against iron, iron against steel, steel against atomic fire. Each defeat had taught them new ways to win. Each loss had made them more dangerous. The sheer relentless creativity of human violence overwhelmed psychic defenses that had been considered impenetrable. Across the Zephyrian fleet, war philosophers who had conquered 17 star systems began experiencing what humans called psychological warfare for the first time. Their crystal forms started cracking under the pressure of minds that refused to submit and instead turned their own weapons against them. In the Kepler 442 system, the Nexus Collective's biomechanical armada descended on the human research stations. With mathematical precision, Director Calix had calculated every variable, accounting for human weapons, defensive positions, and probable tactical responses. The hive mind superintelligence had run millions of combat simulations, all of which concluded with total human defeat within minutes. The humans refused to follow the simulations. Chief Engineer David Park triggered the quantum disruption fields. As the alien drones entered the system's asteroid belt, the technology was reverse engineered from Watcher archives and specifically designed to interfere with the quantum entanglement networks that allowed the collective to operate as a single entity. Suddenly, 10,000 drones found themselves cut off from their hive mind, each one forced to operate independently for the first time in their species. History. The effect was like severing the connections between neurons and a superintelligent brain. Drones that had moved with perfect coordination began colliding with each other. Tactical decisions that should have taken nanoseconds now required individual processing. The mathematical perfection of their assault formation collapsed into chaos as each unit struggled to function without constant oversight from the collective consciousness. But humans had learned something about the Nexus Collective that they didn't know about themselves. Their individual units were actually quite intelligent when forced to operate alone. The problem was that they had no experience with independence. They were like brilliant scientists who had never learned to think without a committee. Dr. Jennifer Walsh activated the second phase of humanity's defense from her position aboard the research vessel Darwin. Instead of simply disrupting the alien network, the quantum fields began broadcasting human tactical doctrine directly into the separated drone minds. Suddenly, biomechanical entities that had spent their entire existence as part of a hive mind found themselves exposed to concepts like individual initiative, creative problem-solving, and tactical improvisation. Asterisk. The psychological impact was devastating. Drones began questioning orders for the first time in their species' history. Some started developing what could only be described as personalities. Others experienced existential crises as they realized they had never made an independent decision. The perfect unity of the collective's military force disintegrated not through destruction, but through the introduction of individuality. Director Calix, operating from the command bioship at the edge of the system, watched its carefully orchestrated invasion dissolve into philosophical chaos. The drones weren't just malfunctioning, they were thinking for themselves, and that thinking was leading them to conclusions the collective had never anticipated. Some were questioning the morality of exterminating an entire species. Others were wondering what it would be like to continue existing as individuals rather than components of a larger intelligence. In the Alpha Centauri system, War Paramount Keth led the sovereign empire's reality manipulators against the human mining colonies. These beings could alter the fundamental laws of physics within their operational range, making enemy weapons useless and enemy defenses irrelevant. They began by modifying local gravity to crush human installations and adjusting electromagnetic properties to disable all electronic systems. The humans responded by weaponizing the reality distortions. Lieutenant Colonel Maria Santos activated the reality anchor systems from her command post on Proxima Station. These devices had been designed based on principles extracted from Watcher technology, specifically to interact with localized reality manipulation. Instead of trying to counteract the aliens' ability to alter physics, the anchors were designed to amplify and redirect those alterations. When War Paramount Keth increased local gravity to crush the human defensive positions, the reality anchors redirected that gravitational effect toward the Sovereign Empire's own ships. Suddenly, vessels designed to operate in normal space found themselves subjected to gravitational forces that compressed their exotic matter hulls beyond their structural limits. When another reality manipulator attempted to disable human electronics, by altering electromagnetic constants. The anchors channeled those changes through the Empire's own command networks, ships that relied on reality distortion for basic operations suddenly found their own systems failing as the modified physics worked against them instead of for them. Captain Alex Rivera watched from the bridge of the converted cargo hauler. Defiance's sovereign empire vessels began tearing themselves apart with their own reality manipulation technology. They're so used to being the only ones who can change the rules that they never develop defenses against their own abilities being turned around on them. The tactical situation across all three theaters was developing in ways that violated every principle of conventional galactic warfare. The Zephyrians, masters of psychic domination, were being driven insane by human mental resistance. The Nexus Collective, perfection of unified intelligence, was collapsing under the introduction of individual thought. The Sovereign Empire Supreme, manipulators of reality, was being destroyed by their own power redirected against them. But the most significant development wasn't happening on any battlefield. It was happening in the minds of the human defenders. Admiral Chun received reports from all three combat zones and realized something that the Watchers had tried to explain, but that no one had truly understood. Humans weren't just fighting for survival. They were learning from every alien weapon, every enemy tactic, every hostile capability turned against them. Each attack was teaching them new ways to fight. Each defense was revealing new possibilities for offense. Dr. Kim burst into the command center again, this time carrying data that made her voice shake with excitement and terror. Admiral, we're not just winning these battles. We're evolving during them. The neural networks are processing alien technology in real time. The quantum fields are adapting to counter new threats automatically. The reality anchors are learning to manipulate physics in ways the Sovereign Empire never imagined. Chun stared at the tactical displays showing three of the galaxy's most powerful military forces being systematically dismantled by human defenders who had been outnumbered 1,000 to 1. What are you saying, Doctor? I'm saying that the Watchers were right. Humans don't just adapt to hostile environments. We weaponize them. And these alien technologies, these advanced capabilities they've been using against us, they're becoming part of our arsenal. We're not just surviving this attack. We're absorbing it, learning from it, making it ours. The implications hit Chun with the force of a revelation. Humanity hadn't just been preparing to defend against alien attack for the past 6 months. They had been preparing to become something more than they were before. The coordinated assault by 3 galactic superpowers wasn't going to destroy humanity. It was going to upgrade humanity. In the Kepler 442 system, individual Nexus Collective drones were beginning to form alliances with human defenders. Their newfound individuality had led them to realize that they preferred thinking for themselves to being components of a collective. Intelligence. Several had requested asylum and were already sharing biomechanical integration techniques with human engineers. In the Alpha Centauri system, reality anchor technology was evolving beyond its original parameters. Human technicians were learning to manipulate physics as effectively as the Sovereign Empire, but with a creativity and unpredictability that beings who had spent centuries perfecting their techniques couldn't counter. In the new Tokyo system, the neural feedback networks had absorbed enough Zephyrian psychic techniques that human defenders were beginning to exhibit limited telepathic abilities. But unlike the aliens' mental domination, human psychic development was focused on coordination and tactical communication. The 3 great powers of the galaxy had intended to demonstrate their superiority by eliminating a primitive species that threatened galactic stability. Instead, they were creating the very monster they had feared. Every weapon they deployed was being absorbed, analyzed, and improved upon by defenders who treated each attack as a learning opportunity. War Paramount Kef, his reality distortion. Fields failing as human-controlled anchors turned his own power against him. sent an emergency communication to the other coalition commanders. This is not proceeding according to projections. The humans are not responding to overwhelming force with surrender. They are responding with adaptation. Recommend immediate tactical withdrawal and reassessment. Supreme Commander Thrix, his crystal matrix cracking under the psychological pressure of minds that refuse to submit, agreed with growing panic. Confirmed, these beings do not fight like any known species. They are using our own capabilities against us more effectively than we use them ourselves. This is no longer an extermination operation. This is first contact with something unprecedented. Director Calyx, watching its drones develop individual personalities and begin questioning their loyalty to the collective, reached the same conclusion through different reasoning. Analysis indicates that continued engagement will result in complete tactical and strategic compromise. The humans are not being defeated. They are learning. At current rates of adaptation, they will possess our combined technological capabilities within one standard rotation. The three fleets began retreating from human space, but it was already too late. Humanity had tasted advanced alien technology and found ways to not just counter it, but improve upon it. The defensive war was becoming something else entirely. An educational experience that would transform human civilization into something the galaxy had never seen before. Admiral Chun stood in his command center, watching the alien fleets withdraw in disorder, and realized that the Watchers had been absolutely right. The galaxy's greatest powers had just declared war on evolution's answer to an impossible world. They had attacked a species that treated every threat as an opportunity to become more dangerous. The war for humanity's survival was over. The humans had won. But the real conflict, the one that would reshape galactic civilization, was just beginning.